Welcome to Rekt Academy, I'm Cyclohexanol. For the first couple clips in this video, we're going to be flying this Thorax. The reason that we're choosing this particular Thorax is with the 1600 plate and the 3 Trimark armor pumps, we actually have a lot of mass and very little agility on this ship. So with the particular piloting maneuver that we're trying to pull off, this is going to be possibly the hardest cruiser to actually do this with. We're being tackled by a standard stiletto fit here, so it's a Scram, long point, MSE, and a micro warp drive for the mids. And with the Tech 2 warp disruptor, we can expect a cold range of 28 kilometers. Interceptors will rarely fly alone, and in scenarios like this, you can really expect, if not a small gang, then an interceptor fleet to be somewhat behind and trying to catch up, get some secondary points on you, and take you down. So our goal is actually to get out of here. This is a small bit of MS Paint to actually break down the piloting that we're doing in this video. First off, we're being orbited by this scepter right here, and we're just kind of going around us in an orbit here. And we are in a Thorax, and we are trying to align towards a celestial. And the position of the celestial is very important. We need to be somewhat parallel to each other in piloting at one point in time. The scepter needs to be more or less going this way on this plane, have that trajectory, and as the Thorax we need to be moving towards the celestial. Once we see the scepter is at this 90-degree angle or so right here, we have our heated prop and we activate it, and we start micro warp driving towards the celestial we're already aligned to. And with the auto orbit system the way it is, the scepter won't actually be able to stay within range, and it'll try and curve around here, but it's gonna fall back quite a bit, and once it gets to the 28 km or so, then it's going to end up breaking its point, and we're just going to be able to easily warp off to the celestial. No problems. So our first step when we want to pull off this maneuver is we want to zoom out a little bit and look at the orbit of the frigate that is currently kiting us. We want to then kind of look around, see if there's a celestial where if we align to it, at what point in the frigate's orbit, if they're going in the opposite direction of us in a parallel line, and we can also be aligned to that celestial or somewhat in the direction of that celestial, that's going to be a very good align point for us. So we're going to go ahead and align to it, prepare to heat the micro warp drive, and spam that warp button. The purpose of this clip is to show how applicable this actually is to faction warfare as well. We're using a relatively slow frigate, the Merlin, and we're going up against a bit of a kiting staple, which is the Kite Tristan. Going to be taking a little bit of drone damage, but with a proper align, proper heat on the AB, we can actually get out of this. It's important not to get tunnel visioned when you're pulling this maneuver. If you get tunnel visioned and you start forgetting your tank, then you'll just end up dying and you won't be able to warp out anyway. In this part of the clip we can actually see that he gets pretty far into his orbit around behind us, but we do manage to pull away before he can pull back in. So let's just go over a few notes here real quick. The auto orbit is a horribly ineffective way to actually pilot around space, and it's very easily manipulatable by both this tactic and slingshotting. Or you could just drift into an area you don't want to, or start bouncing off of something and not be able to keep range. Second off, when you're going to find your warp out spot, if you have the choice, always choose to warp to an area where you have multiple celestial beacons in one little grouping, in one little cluster. The reason that you want to do this is if you warp to, say, a belt and there's no other belts in the area, then that scepter or whatever it is going to see where you go, and they'll have the ability to potentially follow you and get their tackle again, and you can bet that they'll be a lot more aggressive with trying to hold point on you the second time around if you slip from their fingers. However, if you warp over to a cluster with a bunch of stuff inside of it, they don't know which one you warp to, and they kind of got to pick at random. So you have a pretty good chance of getting away once you land on that grid as well. And the last little note that I want to talk about is sometimes if you have, say, damage that can apply to your opponent, even at the range that they are in, like a small amount of damage, or say you have drones that you don't really care about, go ahead and apply the damage or send out the drones, and you won't really have very reasonable chances of bringing your opponent down with this. However, what this does do is gives them something else to think about. So they're less likely to actually pay attention to the range that you're at, your speed that's just massively increasing now, and the fact that they're about to drop point, so they have less ability to react to it. Special thanks to Turin Thomas for being our co-pilot in this and helping us to actually demonstrate this piloting technique. Until next time, dudes, fly dangerous.